Good evening. Thank you so much for joining Respus Live. Happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Love Month. Happy Black History Month. It is such a great privilege to be able to come tonight live in your homes and on your Facebook pages. Please, at this moment, would you share the video, start a watch party? Again, if you would share, tag, and start a watch party. Yes, it is great to be here this evening. I'm so happy to be here. Grateful that each of you signed on. So please share. And again, thank you so much for being a part of Respus Live and for your support. It is priceless. Thank you. And tonight, our subject, if you would, is refuse to lose. So if I can get someone to hashtag that, refuse to lose. Refuse is defined as an indication to show that one is not willing to do something, not willing to accept. So we have to refuse to lose, meaning we can't accept that we're going to lose. We can't accept that we can't achieve this goal or this dream or this vision. No matter what obstacles come in your way, or no matter what happens in life, you have to understand that you have all that you need inside of you to win. One of my hashtags this year is I will win. So we have to understand that we are winners. So if we're going to be a winner, we have to refuse to lose. And there is a quote that I like. It says, and I think we've all heard it before, that you can't quit because a quitter never wins. So in order for you to win, you have to refuse to lose. You can't give up. You can't quit. You can't throw in the towel. No matter how many obstacles you have, no matter how many times people will tell you you can't make it, you can't move forward, you can't do this, you have to press your way. You have to keep pushing, keep moving forward, because you have to have the mindset. You have to make an executive decision that you refuse to lose. I refuse to lose. I mean, in every aspect of my life, I will win. I may not win today, I may not win tomorrow, but I promise you I will win. And that is my mindset. So you got to keep fighting. And sometimes you even have to keep crying. Yeah, sometimes it's tough. And the obstacles are in our way. We have mountain and valley experiences, but you got to keep fighting. And sometimes you have to cry. You got to cry your way through it, but keep crying as long as you're moving while you're crying. And crying is fleeting. You have to keep moving forward. And sometimes life knock us back. There's been a couple times in my personal life that I was knocked back and took a couple steps back, but I had to make a decision to keep moving forward. So again, our hashtag tonight is to refuse to lose. And if I could get about 5 people to hashtag that and just mean it when you hashtag it, because you're speaking into yourself, you have to refuse to lose in every aspect, in every area, in every circumstance of your life. You got to keep moving. A quitter never wins. And a winner never quits. So you got to keep moving. So again, I want to encourage you. I want to challenge you to make an executive decision that you're going to win in every aspect of your life. That means you're going to keep moving forward and you're going to refuse. You're not going to accept that you're going to lose. Even though it may look like it, you got to keep moving forward. And if at first you don't succeed, try again. But whatever you do, refuse to lose and refuse to give up. So tonight I want Respus Live to welcome my guests. We have a very special guest. Of course, all my guests are very special. Tonight we have with us Dr. Jerry Oates. And we're so grateful that he took time out of his schedule to come and stop by Respus Live on tonight. And for those of you that don't know, I'll allow him to introduce himself. But Dr. Oates is the superintendent of Brunswick County Schools. And of course, I am a Brunswick Countyan. I've been in Brunswick County since 1999, so that's home for me. And it is so refreshing to have Dr. Oates as the superintendent of Brunswick County Schools. So if you would please share the video. We have the superintendent here on tonight. Share the video, start a watch party, and we're going to welcome to Respus Live Dr. Jerry Oates. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
How are you doing this
well.
evening? Good.
First, let me just say, just to commend you on the refuse to lose hashtag. I think that goes a long way with people. And I was just sitting here as you were imparting that and just thought about my entire journey from Duplin County, from facing North Carolina to this present time. And, you know, I haven't openly said that, but I've had that in my mind. You know, you can't give up. You have to continue on, and you just refuse to lose. So I can appreciate that and take that to heart. Yeah. But as you did say, I am Jerry Oates. I'm the superintendent of Brunswick County Schools. Just completed the first full year. I was named superintendent back in November of 2000. 18.
18.
I think it was. Yes, it was 18. Time goes quickly.
It does.
And I enjoy what I do on a day-to-day basis. I really do.
Yeah, it is refreshing to be able to walk into the schools and to look on the walls and to see the pictures of all the members of the board, and then to see your picture right in the middle. It is refreshing for us to see that, especially by it being Black History Month. We're not going to make this about any race or thing like that, but it is a privilege, and it is refreshing, to say the least, to have an African American male as the superintendent of Brunswick County Schools. Brunswick County is an amazing place to live. I've been there since 1999, and it's a county that I've been able to experience a lot of love and support from so many people. And it's good to have you as the superintendent of the schools. My daughter has been in school in Brunswick County all her life. That's the only school she's ever been in, the school system, and it has been beneficial to her in lots of aspects, and we're grateful for what you're doing in Brunswick County for all the hard work. So let's talk about refusing to lose. Okay, from Facing, North Carolina, it's some good people in Facing.
Some good people in
It's
Facing.
some good people in Facing. My bonus mama lives in Facing, so there's a lot of good people in Facing. So tell me, your journey started in Facing. What was it about life, or what inspired you to want to go in the field of education first?
Well, my mom's a career teacher, and you can't help but be intrigued by education when your mom's a teacher and you see her do it day in and day out. I can remember as a third grade, fourth grade kid, back in the day when we had tape recorders, I would read stories for the kids that she was going to teach. It'd be my voice on the tape. And then I'd go in, and after school, I'd listen to me reading those stories that her kids read that day.
Okay.
So that kind of planted the seed, but to really think about it, I think just watching her and the love and the joy that she got out of going to work every day and teaching kids, and then coming back, these kids would leave her and they'd see her in the grocery store or see her just around the town, and they just act like she was the best thing since sliced bread, and she is.
Of course.
Your bonus mama's there, my mama's there,
Yes.
so I get it. But that kind of planted the seed for me.
That's great. One of the most influential people in my life is my 10th grade teacher, Mrs. Hester McFadden, that I've affectionately called Mom since the 10th grade. It was something about her that she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and she nurtured that for years. And to this day, I still affectionately call her Mom. So teachers are so important in the lives of students, and they can change a person's life and their perspective. And that's what she did for me. Bless her heart. Her hands were full because I was wild in the 10th grade, to say the least. But she saw something in me, so she helped me cultivate mold me into a young lady. And like I told you, her hands were full. But she took the time. So it wasn't just a profession for her. As you stated when you were talking about your mom, she loved it. So it became not like going to work, because you go to work when you don't enjoy what you're doing.
That's true.
But when you love what you're doing,
It's not work.
It's not work at all.
It really
Yeah.
isn't. But I can think about teachers that I had all the way throughout. I think about fourth grade, I had Bertha Hill. Fifth grade, B. Martin. Sixth grade, Janie Stevens. Seventh grade, David Beatty. And eighth grade, David Beatty. And then when I got to high school, that's kind of where it changed. I looked at Mr. Linwood Thompson, who's from Facing, Shirley Gaskins, who really kind of put me on that real path to going into education and making it a career. She now lives in Brunswick County herself.
Oh, great.
So when you have good people in your life to mold you, and they can see something in you, that makes it a lot easier. And plus, those are the same people that when they saw you doing something that you had no business doing, they yank a knot in you too. So
Absolutely.
and it's all because of what they saw in you,
That
they didn't want you to go down a path that was not going to benefit you in the long run.
That is so true. Teachers are so important. I was thinking back in high school, one of my teachers was Reba Marshall, also Reba Jordan, and she took a lot of time out with me. I mean, like taking me to get my hair done and purchasing clothes for me, and just making sure that my appearance was better than what it was when she saw me. So it is so good to understand that when we send our kids to school with a teacher that loves what they do, it makes a huge difference. So a shout out to all the teachers in Brunswick County and other counties that love what they do and make a difference in their children's life. And I'm just an example of how a teacher can make and mold you into an amazing person. And I take my hat off to my teachers, Cheryl Beatty, Reba Marshall Jordan, and there's just so many more that were really influential in my life. And so you watch your mom and you recorded your some cassettes and then kind of like taught the class at an early age. And then you had some teachers that help kind of mold you into the education career.
It really piqued my interest, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make the real decision to go into education until 10th, 11th grade year.
Okay.
Because up until that time, I was dead set on being a doctor. I was going to be a physician.
Oh.
Um, Probably since the 4th grade, that was my plan. I was going to
Mm-hmm.
be, work at somebody's hospital, have my own practice, that kind of thing. And then when I got with Shirley Gaskins and she taught me U.S. history,
Mm.
that was my thing. I just was mesmerized by the effect of her teaching and knowing how history basically repeats itself and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And from then, that's when I said, this is kind of what I want to do. And I knew at the 11th grade, I did not want to just stop there. Back then, we got memory books.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
As a high school, well, actually as a junior, you get
Right.
your memory books
Mm-hmm.
and keep all your stuff for your
Mm-hmm.
senior year. So I got mine, and it had, has what your future plans are 5, 10, 15 years. And I went in and I filled mine in, and I still have it on my bookshelf at the house. I share it with my daughter all the time. 5 years, what are you going to do? My plan then as an 11th grader was to graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in history to teach.
Wow.
And then 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to have a master's in administration to be a principal.
And you wrote this when you were in the 11th grade. Wow.
In 11th grade. And then it has your long-term goals. Long-term goals was to get my doctorate degree and be a superintendent somewhere in the state.
Are you serious?
So that's what I wrote down in the 11th
in the
grade.
11th grade.
So what I give to people, or at least I try to, particularly the students that I come in contact with, I always, and I just said this at a mid-year graduation we had in early part of January. Whatever your goal is, write it down. Literally write it down. Just don't have it in your head. Just don't think about it. Actually put pen to paper and put that somewhere where you can see it. And that way you always have a target. You always have a goal, and you always have focus to take you down the road you want to go on.
One of the hashtags that I've kind of created was you have to see it before you see it. And that's a prime example of that. And in the 11th grade, you saw your entire life for the next 10, 15 years, which is amazing. And then you wrote it down, and there's so much power in writing. Even from a biblical perspective, it says write the vision and make it plain, and vision boards are so important. And I've encouraged so many youth. Actually, the third Sunday this month, I'll help the youth do a vision board at our church. Vision boards are so important, and writing it down is so important. And I'm glad you're able to share this with us, because there's probably somebody's watching right now that has things in their mind that they want to do, in a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan. And one of the key things is to know what you want to do and then write it down. And just, it's amazing that at the 11th grade, you knew which path you wanted to go in.
I did.
And because you enjoyed history so much, that one class just gave you like a desire to be a history teacher. So you majored in history.
I majored in history with a certification to teach. So, and it's funny because, when I left my high school, of course, Miss Gaskins was my teacher. She was the one. 4 years later, she was my colleague, because then I went back to Duplin County and taught. So she was still teaching. So I got a teaching position, and the first person I go seek out for resources and to help and guide is Miss Gaskins, and she offered everything up that she had to help me in my first year teaching.
So when you graduated, you went back home to
did.
teach. That is awesome.
I went back home for a year.
For 1 year?
For 1 year.
So where did your journey take you after you graduated from?
I graduated from UNCW.
Shout out to UNCW.
UNCW, yeah.
Shout out to UNCW. So you graduated from UNCW, went back home for a year, and then what happened after that?
Well, I was, and again, my mom was there in Duplin County, and she was still teaching at the time as well. Well known, everybody knows my mom in education. So I began my career in teaching, and a lot of my evaluations, most of my evaluations were glowing evaluations as a teacher. So I'm thinking, is this because I'm that good, or is it because they're giving me this because of who my mama is?
I understand.
So I said, well, I'm going to take a chance and see if I'm as good as these folks say and get out of my mom's shadow, if you will. So I took a job at John T. Hoggart High School in Wilmington. Came back to Wilmington.
Okay.
And I stayed there for 3 years. I taught at John T. Hoggart. And the funny thing is, that's not the school that I initially applied for. I applied for a teaching position at Lakeside High School, the alternative school. That was
so that was the first.
That's where I wanted to go.
Wow.
I wanted to teach at Lakeside.
Okay.
But I didn't get the job. So I got a call back the next day from HR, and they said, well, there's a position at Hoggart. If you are interested, there's an interview, and they gave me the interview. So I went in, and I ended up taking that position. So like I said, I stayed there for 3 years.
Okay.
At Hoggart. And the principal at the time was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Norman Sharon. He was the principal there for a year when I got to Hoggart. And he didn't know me. He saw me. He said, one day you're going to make a good principal. And, 11th grade, I wrote that down. So Norm Sharon kind of took me under his wing, if you will. And 3 years later, I was asked to come to the central office I was asked just to report to the central office. So, third year, fourth year teacher, going down to the big house, as you call it, is kind of scary.
I can imagine.
So you walk in, and the superintendent and other folks are sitting around a table, and then there's little old me, and I'm like, well, what's going on?
Right.
And John Morris was the superintendent at the time, and he said, I have 2 vacancies for assistant principal. One at Laney, one at New Hanover High School. And he said, which one do you want? My line to him, and it's been the same since that time, is I work for the county. You tell me where you want me to go.
Wow.
And ended up at New Hanover High School.
So
as
this was
principal.
3 years.
That was 4 years after graduating college. I was 20.
3 years in
3 years in
New
Hanover
Hanover County.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was 26 at the time.
So at 26 years old, you moved from teaching to an assistant principal.
Right. I had just enrolled in the master's program at UNCW.
Okay.
And at that time, you could get an assistant principal's job without having your degree. Having to have it completed. So I enrolled. They found out about it, and I ended up at New Hanover High School.
Wow.
And then it was probably one of the best experiences I probably could have gotten.
Was the assistant principal?
Was it? You're right. Working with James McAdams.
Okay.
Who was a former Brunswick County principal.
Wow. Okay.
And I ended up working under him at New Hanover High School.
And how long were you at New Hanover?
I was at New Hanover from 2000 to 2004. So I stayed 4 years there. Finished my master's, of course. And once I finished, Dr. Morris came out to the school again. I'm in my office as the assistant principal. And he said, I got a feeling there's going to be a school opening. And I just looked at him.
Right.
Like, okay. And he said, you should think about interviewing for the possible principalship at, of all places, Lakeside High School.
Get out of here. You got to be kidding me.
The same place
that you originally wanted to go.
Teach.
Okay, so how many years is this? How many years in?
That was 97 is when I applied. 2004 is when I ended up getting a job at Lakeside High School.
Wow. Okay, so your career moved swiftly.
Yeah, it did.
What do you think was the reason it moved so swiftly? What was it about what you did to make you?
I don't think it was me. That was God's plan. It really didn't have anything to do with me.
Okay.
It really, I say that with all sincerity. It didn't have anything to do with me. I didn't think I was any better or any worse than any other administrator. But what's for you is for you.
So what preparations did you make? Because I do understand that God's plan is his plan, but we have to prepare ourselves. So what work ethics did you have to help? It had to be something about you different for them to keep calling your name.
You had to put the work in.
Exactly.
Now, that much is true.
Yeah.
I spent some long days and nights at New Hanover. I was in charge of scheduling, which when you're looking at, I can't remember how many kids we had at that time, but it was probably 17, 1,800 kids. And when you're the person in charge of making schedules for all of those kids, that's a job. And school starts, schedules aren't right. Kids and parents want schedule changes.
Mm-hmm.
I would get there at 6:30, 7 o'clock and not leave till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night doing different schedule changes. But I think, if anything, one of the tenets of my leadership has always been treating people like people.
Oh, yeah. That's very important.
That's what I tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make any exceptions for this person based on their zip code.
I see what you're saying.
I treated everybody the same and just tried to treat people like people. And I think that went a long way with some of the folks who make those decisions and trying to do what's best for those kids and making sure that they get what they need so they can be successful.
So in that time frame, I'm sure there were times where you refused to lose. I'm sure there were obstacles in your way, but what was the driving force that, I know you had a goal, what was the driving force that kept you moving forward during those difficult times?
My grandmother. I would always keep her in the back of my mind, and I just always wanted to make sure whatever I did was going to make her smile. Yeah. And that was a driving force. She pushed me a lot, but that kept me going. And another thing is, everybody's faced with obstacles, and I was no different.
Absolutely.
But I've always been one of the type of people who well, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Oh, that's good.
So you say I can't do it. You count me out already. So let me just prove to you that I can.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So you took whatever was handed to you, good, bad, or indifferent, and you made it personal as a goal. I'm going to do this and I'm going to achieve this. You refused to lose. Right. And refused to accept whatever anybody said you couldn't or could not do. You kept going.
I mean, you think about it in terms, even with Lakeside.
Yes.
I was declined the teaching position that I truly wanted that position.
Exactly.
But I came back as the principal of the same school.
Yeah.
So.
How long did you stay there at Lakeside?
Oh, man. I was at Lakeside maybe 6-7 years. Wow. And then we changed it. It changed from Lakeside. We moved from Lakeside and created Mosley Performance Learning Center.
Exactly.
And my years run together.
I understand.
That after we ended what was Lakeside, we started Mosley, and I stayed there until around 2012, 2013, and then my last stop as principal was at Williston Middle School.
So Lakeside was a school for...
Lakeside was the alternative school.
So the kids that were there were...
The kids that were there were put out of their traditional school for violation of policy. It could have been anything. Yeah. But that's just where those students attended. We had graduation. We had kids graduating from there. I'm friends with many of the students that are there now, that were there. Because they are grown and have their own families. But it was a long time ago. But those are some of the best years and some of the best kids and the best teachers that I've been around. Yeah. That entire school was a school for kids that folks counted out.
Yeah, and for you to say that was the best school and the best kids is amazing, because so many times we count people out and we put them in a box, right, and we put them to the side and say they're never going to amount to anything. We're just going to throw all of them in this little cage and nothing's going to happen. You go there and you see the value in each of them.
Every one of them.
Every one of them
has something to offer.
Yes, and that's where you treat people like people, even in an alternative school.
That's right.
That is so important, and it's so inspirational, because so many times people count us out based on our circumstances, where we are, geographical location, where we were raised, and they count us out. But you took those kids and you show them a different perspective, because if they're still in touch with you now, then that means you've impacted their lives in so many different weys. So thank you for sharing tonight that. No, even though society may count us out, we still refuse to lose, and we'll still have value inside of us no matter what school we go to.
That's true.
Yes. I noticed how you carefully didn't say they were kicked out, bad kid. You didn't say that.
And then they weren't.
Exactly.
They violated a policy.
Exactly.
And that's what they did. They did not make them bad people. Yeah. They just violated a policy, and their situation was temporary.
Yes. I love it. That's good. So you leave there, the school that you initially wanted to go to first. You leave there, and where do you go next, Dr. Oates?
Started Mosley, left there, went to Williston.
Yeah.
And Williston was a good time for me as well.
Wow.
It really was.
So at the time you went to Williston, was it labeled?
Williston was a low-performing
A
school.
low performing school. Okay.
At the time, there were some serious behavior issues going on. Teachers were leaving and that type of thing. So it had some issues. So we went in and worked with the staff and really worked with the community.
Wow.
To make Williston better than it was when I got there. We looked at all aspects of it, not just the academic, but the perception of Williston as well, and we worked to change that. Many of the teachers that I work, some of the teachers that I work with are still there, and they're still pushing that legacy of Williston. From the old school Williston,
right? Because Williston's been around a long time.
That's history in Wilmington.
It is history.
When you talk about a Willistonian, you're talking about some folks who have gone on to do some great things. Actually, one of my doctoral professors was a member of one of the later classes of Williston. Dr. Joseph Johnson. He was at Fayetteville State when I was there, and he was one of my professors. So those are some of the types of people that have gone on to do some great things. So what we did when going into Williston was kind of letting the kids and the teachers know, not just them, but also the community be reminded that this is the stock that y'all came from.
Exactly.
So there's no reason why you can't duplicate what these folks did. If they did it, y'all can do it too.
So you started off as a low-performing school.
We started off in a low-performing school, and we moved. We were still in low-performing status. I stayed there for 2 years. But we made significant growth after the first year.
Oh, great.
Probably one of the highest growth measures in the county at that time, as far as just moving the kids and making progress as we should. The perception of the school changed dramatically. Behavior issues went down substantially. We were keeping teachers. Folks wanted to be there. They bought into the legacy of Williston, and it's continuing on now.
That is great. So you were only at Williston for 2 years. I heard that while you were talking. And so tell me where you went next.
Well, after 2 years at Williston, I was named principal of the year in 2015, I think it was.
So while you were at Williston, the low performance school, you were named principal of the year out of all the schools in New Hanover County. Okay.
And from there, I had always been one that just wanted to make sure, I had options.
Okay.
And never forget, one night I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and I would look at different districts as to what jobs were open. And the human resources director position was open in Brunswick County. So I said, can't hurt anything. It's funny because the closing of that job posting was that night.
Wow.
So I had to get my information in that night. So I just threw it in. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to do this and see what happens.
Exactly.
So I threw my name in the hat, and 2 days later, I got a call for an interview.
Wow.
I went over down at the government center at the complex. Didn't know my way around there from nothing, and just found a place, and then went in and interviewed. I thought the interview went very well. One of the folks on the interview panel came out and thanked me for interviewing and asked me, did I mind if references were if they could check references. So
that's always a good sign.
I said, that's a real good sign.
It's a real good sign.
I told my wife, I said, something's getting ready to happen. So we'll see. And then I got called back for a follow-up interview with the superintendent, and they offered me the job. Now it was a bittersweet time,
right?
Because we were just really taking hold at Williston, and Williston had a history of principals not staying particularly long, and if your leadership isn't stable, it doesn't create a good environment. Right. And I didn't want it just to be another one of those folks who were passing through. But I can remember the final email I sent to my staff the night that I was named, when I got the call that everything had gone through and approved by the board. I sent my Williston staff an email letting them know, because I wanted them to hear it from me as opposed to reading it somewhere, hearing it in the news, that I was going to Brunswick County. And my email to them, I said, I've always pushed you to follow your dreams. I said, now it's time for me to go down the path that God has planned for me. And the rest was history.
Was it scary to make that jump? Because
oh my goodness,
you're leaving everything you were familiar with.
I was in New Hanover for 20 years.
Yes.
So all I knew was the New Hanover way
right.
of doing things, and to leave what you know
Exactly.
to go somewhere where no one knows you.
Where nobody know my name.
No one knows your name.
Cheers.
No one, and really no one cares what you did when you were somewhere else, because this is
Right.
how we're doing it here, and you have
Yes.
to learn our way. Not
Mhm.
only was it that, you know, a new environment, but
Mhm.
I'm in a totally new position.
Absolutely.
No longer was I the principal. I knew how to do principalship.
Right.
That was easy. A principalship was second nature. But going in as a district leader,
Okay.
doing human resources for 2,000 employees,
Mhm.
and it's more than just making sure interviews are done and people are hired and
Right.
that kind of thing. You're talking about benefits, you're talking about insurance, you're talking
Yes.
about retirement. All of those things that are handled by HR fell on me. So it was a real quick learning
Yeah.
process. I had to
Mhm.
really dig and get it, and I made connections with people in different counties,
Mhm.
and had a support system,
Okay.
and it worked out well. And I served in that position for 2 years.
Okay. So let me back up because you're going so fast. Were you Dr. Oates by
I
then?
was. I
Okay, so
received my
tell-
doctorate in 2011.
So you received your doctorate in 2011 from
Fayetteville State
Fayetteville
University.
State
Go
Bronco
Broncos.
Pride. From Fayetteville State. We had to put that out there. I was telling some of my girlfriends, we had a Fayetteville State girlfriend weekend just passed, and I was telling them, I said, well, I'm going to have Dr. Oates, and he graduated from Fayetteville State. And, you know, people that went to Fayetteville State, they love Fayetteville State.
My mom went to Fayetteville State.
Yes,
Yeah.
Fayetteville State. I had some good times on that campus. It was a very nice school. So shout out to Fayetteville State Bronco Pie. So you have your both degrees from UNCW,
Bachelor's and master's.
and you go to get your doctorate degree from Fayetteville State University in
Educational leadership.
So you have prepared yourself. I know we give God all the glory, but Jerry Oates prepared himself for what was where you wanted to go.
Right.
You knew what you needed to be a superintendent. So you prepared yourself prior to getting it.
Right. And having a doctorate is not a requirement in most cases for a superintendency. You know, there are a lot of superintendents who have their master's degree.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I just know I needed to be a head above the crowd if I
see what you're
could,
saying. Yeah.
and prepare myself that way. So it had always been, like I said, I wanted to be a doctor when I was in the third, fourth grade, but it was a medical doctor. So I just left the medical field and went to administration.
Into education. I always say that we have to prepare ourselves when we sit to the table. And I am a firm believer that every table that I desire to sit, I need to make sure that I'm prepared in every way. I want to make sure that I have the credentials even above and beyond that's required so that I have a fair chance at
right.
If I can get to the table, you know, the rest should be history because I have prepared myself to get there. So you've prepared yourself for where you want to go.
Correct.
And I just want to tell our audience and our viewers that it is important to prepare yourself and to make sure that you have the necessary credentials to be able to sit to a table and to be able to be recognized.
Right. And the credentials I can't remember who I talked with before, but it was basically saying the credentials get you a seat at the table. And once you have your credentials, you know, you can come in and have a seat at the table. Now it's on you
as to what you do
with it
while you're at the table. That's so important. So you were prepared, and so at 2 years, so you go to Brunswick County, and then 2 years.
Yeah, I served as human resources director.
And then
the superintendent did a change in personnel, and I was appointed the associate superintendent for Brunswick County Schools. And basically, the associate superintendent is the one that handles the day-to-day operations of the entire system. Would speak on behalf in the absence or at the request of the superintendent, and the other directors and cabinet members would report directly to me, and I reported to the superintendent.
Okay, great. We got a few shout outs for you. It looks like Faison is in the house. I was like Barbara Jones, Vaughn, Ma, talking about my son. So shout out to everybody from Faison, North Carolina that's looking. And I'm gonna see someone else was giving you a shout out about being from Faison. So they're very proud of you in Faison, and I'm sure your family is very proud of you as well. One of the things that I admire about you, one of the many things, is you're very humble, and I feel like that's when we can be utilized the most, when we understand it's not about us, it's about the gift that we've been given. And so it's refreshing to see African American male in a very prestigious position. It is what it is. We have to accept where God places us, and it didn't change who you were, anything about you. It just allowed you to utilize the gifts and talents that you've had. What do you think, or what is the key to staying humble when you're in a position of leadership? And my doctorate that I'm going to school to get my doctorate, and it's in leadership, so I'm always interested about leadership. What is it that keeps you humble? Because one thing I've noticed about leaders is they miss that part.
If you forget that at one time you were one of the people that was under the leadership of someone else,
Mm-hmm.
if you forget that and you think that your appointment to this position is greater than the people that you lead,
Wow.
you've lost the message.
Mm-hmm.
Because your power comes from your people. Your authority comes from your people. And you have to be able to realize that you're no different than they are. And at any given time,
Mm-hmm.
you can go right back to
I love it.
being in the followership, as I call it, as opposed to leadership. And it keeps you grounded, it really does. It's a job, it's a career. I enjoy it, no doubt.
Yes.
But I've always said,
Mm-hmm.
it's what I do. It's not who I am.
Yeah, it's a big difference. That is a major difference. And I do believe that is one of the key factors, key components of being a humble leader, is that you don't identify who you are with what you do. I
don't introduce myself as Dr. Jerry Oates, the superintendent. No, I'm Jerry Oates from Faison.
This is exactly right. From Faison, North Carolina. So we find yourself in a position, assistant,
the associate
superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was a position that was. What was your description? What did you do in that position?
It was the day-to-day operations of the school system. My job in a basic understanding was to keep everything off the superintendent's desk.
Okay, gotcha.
And allow him to do whatever he needed to do.
Exactly.
Superintendent at that time was Les Tubb,
mm-hmm.
and he was a career educator in Brunswick County for years, and everybody
mm-hmm.
loved Les.
Mm-hmm.
And he was planning to retire.
Okay.
And once he decided to retire, and that was after he was actually going to retire before we had Hurricane Florence.
Right.
But Florence, he decided to stay on, and we worked together to get through that. And then once everything kind of calmed down,
mm-hmm.
he said it's time for him to go. So the position was open, and I applied.
So how long were you in that position?
18 months.
You tickle me. It's about 2 and less than 2.
18 months. I was in that position for 18 months.
And then you became the superintendent of Brunswick County Schools. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was very amazing. Your journey is powerful, and I'm so thankful that you decided to come on Respus Live to share it, because one of the things I wanted our viewers to see is that when you refuse to lose, when you refuse to not give up on your dreams and your visions, that the possibilities are there for you. And write it down and receive it as, this is what I'm going to do. Prepare yourself and walk in it.
Right.
And that's what you've done. You wrote your visions down at a very early age, and your goals, and you stayed focused on what you wanted to do. And the doors were open. God opened so many doors for you, but you still prepared yourself for the doors that he opened for you. And it's essential that we prepare ourselves, that we make sure that we have done all that we can do. I tell people all the time, don't ask God to dig a ditch if he's giving you a shovel. So you took the shovels that he gave you, and you dug your ditch. And so he just made the pathway clear for you, and you were able to walk in supernatural doors. And I see the hand of God over the entire trajectory of your career. And it is amazing that the first thing you did was give him the glory. You never said anything about your education or somebody giving you favor. You said it was the plan that he had for you.
It's that other stuff does not matter. It really doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't, because it's a position.
Yes.
And once the question folks, particularly leaders, have to ask themselves, because your tenure as a leader is limited. You have a limited time of that you're going to be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you after you are no longer in that position?
Yeah.
And do you like who that person is?
Oh, that is good, Jerry.
So you have to kind of keep that in the back of your mind, because one day I will not be the superintendent.
Absolutely.
That's why I don't go introducing myself as such.
Because you'll always be Jerry.
Well, I'm going to always be him.
That's good. So Danielle has a question. She says, have you thought about the fact that you are now history?
I haven't. I have not. But if we're regarding, I'm one of, I know two.
Mm-hmm.
African American superintendents in
Yes.
Brunswick County. At least one. I'm not sure about another. I know P.R. Hankins.
Yeah, I know P.R. Hankins. I knew him very
was
well.
superintendent in Brunswick County.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people think I may be the first.
Mm-hmm.
I am not.
Yes.
I'm just the first in a long time.
Yeah. And Zephia Grissett was the assistant. Now I know Zephia and I knew P.R. Hankins both. Very good people. Both were. So Danielle, you still making history, first, second, or third. So thank you for the question. So let me see. I had another question for you. And thank you so much for sharing. What were some, not specifically, but were there any obstacles that could have easily thrown you off?
Easy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anybody to think that this was just some easy path that I just slid across.
Yes.
I can think back into high school, and folks were nameless, but there was a staff member in my high school that told me that I was not smart enough to be a teacher. And that type of, as they say, motivation, that motivated me. As I said, I'm going to have to show you better than I can tell you. And I was denied an application for a scholarship. And I had another staff member that I told that to, and they went and got the scholarship application for me. And I
so they denied you even the application?
Yeah, there's no need for you to do this.
Wow.
So
okay.
the other staff member went and got it.
Okay.
But I could have been stopped there had
Absolutely.
I believed, if I really had internalized what was said. But long story short, that other staff member got me the application. I filled it out, and I got the scholarship. It was a full ride scholarship to UNCW.
How about that?
So,
so they told you you weren't equipped to be a teacher,
correct.
But you got a full scholarship.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm glad you shared that story, because that'll help a lot of people that's watching and that will watch the show, that no matter what someone tells you, you stay focused on your goals and your dreams and don't give up. You have to refuse to lose.
You can always have detractors. There are going to be folks who push you, and then there are going to be some who are going to try to keep you from reaching your goal. And then you have to decide which folks you're going to listen to, and then listen to yourself to determine where you want to go.
Okay.
So,
well, I'm sure you've already have your goals for what's next in life, and you don't have to share them on the air, but I'm sure you do. I was listening to Bishop Jakes, and he was saying how we need to have a 10-year goal at least. And I've never thought about that until I listened to him, because, we do 5 years, but 10, I was like, "Ooh, Bishop, you're stretching me." But, I have to sit down and figure out what it is I want to do for the next 10 years. So have you thought about what you want to do for the next part of your life?
I have a lot of irons in the fire. I'll just leave it at that.
That's good. That's good. And so it tells us that we need to prepare, and that we never get complacent when where we are. And never think this is it for us.
No, I'm never satisfied.
Yes.
I always believe that you can. It's another one of my leadership foundations, that you can always continuously improve.
Yes.
Once we get complacent with what we're doing or who we are, we get stagnant.
Right.
And it's just a never-ending circle. You get stagnant, you get complacent, you just sit there and do nothing. So we're going to try to keep moving forward and improving.
Okay. As we begin to close, if you could just share some words of encouragement for some little boy that's watching or that will watch, or some young man or anyone in particular that can encourage them, no matter what, no matter who told them they couldn't do it or you weren't equipped to do it, to keep moving forward and to refuse to lose.
Well, what I would say is believe in yourself.
That's good.
But when no one else will, believe in yourself. And envision yourself in whatever your goal is. You have to, as you said, you have to see it before you see it. So I would always see myself in the position that I wasn't in yet.
That's what you're saying.
I would see myself in it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I would even practice it, and it may sound crazy. I'd walk around sometime in as a principal, and someone would ask me, "Well, what are you doing?" I say, "Well, I'm practicing to be a superintendent right now." So those types of things,
I love it.
You have to do, but it doesn't matter where you come from.
Oh, that's good.
I'm from Faison, a small little town in Duplin County.
That's good.
It doesn't matter what your temporary circumstance is, because again, it's temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times we make permanent decisions on temporary situations.
Oh, that'll preach, dear.
So you look at this temporary situation and say, well, this happened, so I might as well forget it. Not realizing that it's temporary and your goal is still there.
Right.
After you come out of what that situation is. So refuse to lose.
That's it. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out your schedule, because I know you're busy as the superintendent of Brunswick County Schools. And again, as being a parent of a student at Brunswick County School, I appreciate what you've done and what you're going to do. And there has been a shifting and a transition since you've been there. And we've always had great schools, and it's always been a good place. I've always felt comfortable with my daughter being in school there. But we just thank you for what you're doing in Brunswick County, and glad to have you across the bridge over there in Leland in the big city of Brunswick County. So again, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for sharing your journey with us. I was hoping that you would share how your journey, how your path was created, and what motivated you and encouraged you. And it's good to know that you had people in your life that pushed you and encouraged you. And I saw how you lit up when you start talking about your grandma, and ain't nothing better than having a grandma that encouraged you and motivates you, because I can say amen to that. So again, thank you so much for coming. And for those that are watching, thank you so much for watching. And please share the video, because it is good to see an African-American male that has done well in so many areas of his life. And so we are asking for sponsors. If you'd like to sponsor Respus Live, please inbox me and let me know. And again, thank you so much to Beauty by Drea for beating my face to death on tonight. I might not even take the makeup off. I'm just kidding. And then A&A Promotions. We thank Antron and A&A Promotions for the Respus Live theme music. Thank you so much, Antron, and your staff for the fire music. And remember that in 2020, we are living our best life. Amen. We're gonna live our best life. And again, Oprah said in her 2020 Vision Tour, she says, "I can, I will, and watch me." So once we receive that mindset that you can do it, you will do it, and just let them watch you do it. That's all. So, Dr. Oates, I do have a shirt for you. I have different colors because I didn't have black. I have gray, purple, and blue.
Gray is fine.
Gray. Okay. And of course, it's hashtag. You have to see it before you see it, but you don't. I don't have to tell you that because you've already mastered that. But hopefully, it'll start a conversation one day when you have it on, and you can share somebody how it's important for them to see their dreams and their visions and aspiration from a different type of eye than the natural eye, from a spiritual perspective, to see it before they actually see it in the physical. So thank you again so much for joining. And Jamie, did I forget anything? I'm good. Thank you all for signing on tonight. Again, share the video. Thank you for your time and your support. And may God's peace be with each of you until we meet again. Blessings. Thank you, Dr. Oh, thank you.